Let's move on to email number 3. And the third email today comes to us from Mike. And Mike writes, "Hey, John, reports are coming out saying Endgame is tracking for hold on to your seats, folks, a $282 million, that's oddly specific, a $282 million opening weekend, which would beat the previous box office opening record by Infinity War. It wouldn't just beat it, Mike, it would blow the previous record out of the water. Do you think this is accurate? And is there a chance this movie beats Avatar with an opening that large?" Well, let's start with the Avatar part first. Hell no. Hell no. It's like, this movie is not going to make the same amount of money as Infinity War plus $780 million more on top of that. So, hey, look, is anything possible? It's absolutely possible. I shouldn't say it's impossible because it's not. But I highly doubt it. I don't think Infinity War, let's put it this way. I don't think Infinity War left a $780 million on the table. Let's just say, put it that way. I don't think Infinity War left that much on the table before. But let's talk about this thing. Rob, it was funny because just the other day, you and I talked about, somebody wrote in, what do you think, which milestone do you think falls first? 3 billion overall worldwide or 300 million? And I said 3 billion worldwide. You said 300 million opening weekend. Mm-hmm. If these tracking numbers hold up, we're getting dangerously close to that 300 million opening weekend number that I said the 3 billion went up. So we could get really damn close to that. Couple of cautions though here, I would suggest. There are a couple of cautions. The first caution I would suggest is this, is that you can't take tracking numbers from 2 months out all that seriously. It's fun to speculate and it's fun to try to, look down the road a little bit and see what happens. But 2 months out is actually quite a ways out. So I don't know that you can take it all that seriously at 2 months out. Now, we could get closer and it could stay at 282 million, or it could go up or it could go down, whatever. But I would say let's not get too many of our eggs in one basket here on a projection number that comes out 2.5 months in advance or 2 months in advance. There's another giant asterisk, though, here to this, Rob. There is a giant but that's attached to this whole thing about 200 million. And here's the giant but. Now, this comes out of Bloomberg Business, where they were talking to the tracking company that did put out this projection number. Here's what the report in Bloomberg said, and this is very, very key. Check this out. They said this: Avengers Endgame is expected to set a weekend box office record when it opens on April 26th. Researcher Exhibitor Relations predicts 282 million in North American ticket sales, topping the 258 million mark set last year by Avengers Infinity War. Now, here we go. Infinity War left audiences with a cinematic cliffhanger, Jeff Brock of the researcher's senior analyst said. The only thing that could really affect the opening weekend would be a running time that exceeds 3 hours. So what this dude is saying, he said these numbers, these projection numbers that Exhibitor Relations have put together with their forecast is dependent upon Infinity War not being a 3+ hour movie. They're saying the only thing that changed this is if it's a 3+ hour movie. Rob, I think this is very, very relevant and very, very key and very, very important, because this brings together a couple of conversations we've had about Avengers Infinity War. One conversation, how big would the opening weekend be? One conversation that we've heard a lot about, could it be a 3+ hour movie? And what this exhibitor relation company is saying is one could pretty much kill the other. Like, if this movie's a 3.5 hour movie, it's going to make huge box office, no doubt, but it's going to radically affect that projected number of 282, because as they went on in the Bloomberg article to explain, is that they figure it'll lose somewhere X number of thousands of actual screenings that the film can have in its first 72 hours. Like, it was in the thousands that will be reduced if it's a 3+ hour movie. And they broke it all down about how it all works out with the length and screen time and all that kind of nonsense. So let me ask you this, Rob. Number one, do you think, just on its surface, that this $282 million projection can hold up? Number two, Do you think that what Bloomberg was talking about would be enough incentive for Marvel to make sure they keep this movie under 3 hours? How do you see those two things?
Well, one, the movie it's locked. It's going to be I'm sure it's picture locked. Aside from if Fox and Marvel's deal is really done on March 8th, they can finally put Galactus in the end of the movie. But I think
you had to get that in there. You had to get that in there.
No, I think that this projection will hold, because what happens is, as many people know, you've got 16 screen multiplexes, and they'll just put the movie. No theater wants a 3 hour gap between times. So what they'll do is they'll have like 10 screens playing Infinity or Endgame, and they'll stagger those times. They'll just fill up more screens with the movie, and they'll have Infinity War will either begin every half hour or every hour. So they'll keep showing. They'll just add more screens, and that'll satiate the demand. I think this movie's going to have the biggest opening of all time. I don't know if it's going to exceed Avatar, but like I've said to you on the show before, I think it's going to make, if the movie's good, I think it's not so much the running time. It's this movie has so much anticipation. I mean, I'm expecting the clouds open and Gozer the Gozerian returns and comes down and destroys the world. That's how much this movie's. It must change my life. I think this movie is going to be like, there's only winning $1 billion in the lottery won't compare to what seeing Avengers Endgame is going to be like. That's what people are thinking. Now, if the movie doesn't provide, if this movie doesn't stick the landing of 22 movies, I don't know what people are going to do. But if it does, I think this movie could have that $300 million opening. And I don't think that any other movie should even open within 2 weeks of this movie, because all the theaters are going to be full of people watching Endgame. I really think that.
I don't think a 3 hour end time will affect the overall worldwide number, because people will go eventually. So I don't think a 3 hour runtime affects the overall number. But as Bloomberg pointed out, it absolutely affects the opening weekend, because that whole process you were just describing, they already did that with Infinity War. They did that. Like, I remember at the AMC Burbank 16, it was take up every single screen, and it was a new screening of it starting every 20 minutes. Like, it was all that kind of stuff. But even then, when you do that, the longer the runtime gets, the shorter of a window you have. You're going to lose out with 16 screens. By the end of the night, you might miss out. Even if you're running at 24 hours, you might miss out on 2 or 3 potential screenings. That doesn't sound like much over 16 screens over 24 hours, that you just lose 2 or 3 potential screenings. But when you multiply that by another 1,000 theaters across North America, it equals 3, 4, 5,000 less screenings than it could have had at that runtime. I'll tell you this. There is no way that Avengers Endgame hits $280 million opening if it's a 3+ hour movie. No way. It just can't. It can still break the record. It can still break that $258 million record. But I just don't see there's any possibility it can hit 280 if it's over 3 hours long, because they're going to be losing out on thousands of screenings in that opening weekend that Infinity War enjoyed the benefit of being able to do. So I think that'll be difficult, but it can still break that record. I still don't see it getting anywhere close to Avatar. I said the same. I remember.
It depends how good it is.
Maybe.
I mean, because Avatar didn't have
but
huge
Infinity
opening.
War was amazing. Infinity War was amazing, and it just crawled over the $2 billion mark.
But that's because there's a big portion of the audience. Like, look, my mom. I've told this story before. I took my mom to see Avatar, and she was blown away. My mother didn't go see Avengers Infinity War. Avatar was a standalone film. You didn't have to have watched all the other Marvel movies. Your grandma could go to Avatar and still be transported away. And that's why it played for a long time. It reached that number because it was playing in IMAX 3D, and it showed people things they had never seen before. But this movie, people have seen now that Infinity War's on Netflix and people can catch up with it. I think the interest in Endgame couldn't be higher. And I think people's anticipation couldn't be higher. And I think that this movie, if it's good, then it might keep playing throughout the summer and make that cheddar, make that 2.7 or 2.8 million, 100 million. billion, right? 2.8 billion, right? Billion, right?
And that's
Billions
the thing.
dollars, yeah.
But I
2.8
agree.
billion.
I agree, but I think we're forgetting how good Infinity War was.
Right,
Infinity
I
War
know.
and how beloved it was, and the anticipation. There's a, I'm not going to throw him under the bus. There's a known online film pundit who literally bet me $1,000 that, by the way, I've still never seen. Literally bet me $1,000 that Infinity War was going to beat Avatar. And I had so many people insisting going into Infinity War. It's like, I think you guys are underestimating just how giant the $2 billion number is.
Right.
And of course it didn't, and nobody actually paid me, but that's fine. That's fine. I probably wouldn't have paid if it did too. And now I'm having everybody tell me it's going to beat Avatar again. And I'm saying, look, understanding the excitement going into Infinity War, understanding how beloved that movie is, understanding how it ran 24/7, understanding all of that, just nobody's been able to show me that Infinity War left $780 million on the table. It's not like Infinity War was, some people saw it and it was moderately received, but Endgame's going to be great. Infinity War was awesome. It was mind-blowingly good. People talked about it for months. We're still talking about it. You still watch it and cry like a baby when you do.
I do.
Of course we do. And that's the movie. And that movie made $2.04 billion. Did it leave 780? And I don't know. Look, I'll say this though, Rob. I'll say this. If any film in recent memory, like in a 2 to 3 year window, has a chance at hitting that Avatar number, it's Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
If like not Star Wars Episode 9, not anything else, not Lion King. And I still think Lion King could end up being the number one box office film of the year. I still think there's a possibility for that. But I think if anyone had an actual shot at the Avatar number, it is probably Avengers Endgame for all the reasons you so eloquently laid out. I
mean,
think you're absolutely right.
We're a week away, John, from Captain Marvel.
Yeah,
a week away, and then we're 45 days away or something away from Infinity War, and 45 days away from Game of Thrones season 8.
It's a glorious time.
I'm just I hope I'm not diagnosed with terminal pancreatic cancer, that I don't get hit by a bus. Because I'd be bummed out, dude. The next 45 days have got some good viewing coming down the road, and we don't know what's happening in these things. We have no idea what's happening in Infinity or in Endgame.
You raise a good point too about Captain Marvel, because one of the things, I have not seen the movie yet. I see it on Monday, so I see it. What day is it? Thursday. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I see it in 4 days. One of my friends who has seen it said this to me. Said, if you think you're excited for, and he didn't put in any kind of context, he just said, if you think you're excited for Avengers Endgame right now, wait until after you watch Captain Marvel. I'm like, really? Tell me more. No, I didn't want him to tell me any more. And I've heard kind of similar sentiments from some people. It's like, I'm more excited now for Endgame than I ever have been, blah, blah. Who knows? That might kick it up to another level. That maybe Captain Marvel kicks it up to another level, or maybe Captain Marvel sucks and we all are mad at Avengers and don't want to see it anymore. But
dude, we're not going to hate Captain Marvel because it's going to go full on flirkin. You know it when the flirkin out.
Full on flirkin. And by the way, let's put this into perspective. When they're talking about a possibly $282 million, to some people that sounds like math. For the longest time, when box office opening weekend records were broken, it was broken by $5 million, broken by $7 million. This would be exceeding it by over $20 million. Let's look at here are the biggest box office opening weekends of all time for comic book films, all right? Avengers Infinity War 257. Look at the second place one, Avengers at 207. It beat it by $50 million. And look, all the films that come after Avengers are just incremental numbers. Black Panther is the number 3 film at 202, just a $5 million difference. Just an $11 million difference between Black Panther and Avengers Age of Ultron. Just like a $12 million difference between Avengers Age of Ultron and Captain America Civil War. Just a $5 million difference between Captain America Civil War and Iron Man 3. By the way, you notice all top 6 spots are held by Marvel films. Then Batman versus Superman, just like $8 million behind that at 166. Dark Knight Rises, just $6 million behind that. Dark Knight, just $2 million behind that. Spider-Man 3, just $7 million behind that. So it's 7, 7, 2, 8, 6, 11, 12, $50 million difference between Avengers and Infinity War. And it would be that type of, if this movie came in at $282 million, you're looking at that type of a jump. You're looking at like a $25 million jump over a previous record. If it actually does, and it's too early to call, but if it actually does, it's not just breaking a record. It is shattering a record. It's destroying a record that a lot of people, including me, thought was going to stand for a pretty damn long time. So it would be pretty freaking impressive if that happens. All right, we've got to move on now.